Okay, gang, we are going to start this webinar back up. Let's first make sure that that everybody can hear me. So if a panelist can just send me a message, and if one of the audiences can also send me a message saying you can hear me, that'd be great. And we will start to move. Okay, great. I see I can hear you. Terrific. Anybody who's done this sort of thing before probably knows just how stressful that just was. So welcome. It looks like we're very close to the number of people who originally were on the webinar. Want to remind everybody we are recording this, so we will also be sending this out. I am going to quit Outlook so it doesn't make so many noises. Great. Well, we're going to go ahead and get going. First of all, thank you to you know, what is close to 300 of you that either were on the webinar or still logging on. And thanks for attending this day. You know, I wanted to share with you what we're going over today and what we will not be going over today. We started planning this event a week ago yesterday, and we had no idea what was to come. None of us did. There was some discussion on if we should even hold the webinar at all. But the consensus was that people want to feel that at some point they will have some control over this situation, and when that time comes, they want to be prepared. So look at this like a continuing education for when the time is right for you and your businesses. And when you're ready to make changes in your business, each of us that are on this panelist and the industry as a whole, we're here for you. We will not be covering in detail cancellations and chargebacks. I know this is something you're all thinking about, but this was focused mostly on sales and marketing, but Mr. Milo will have some of this covered in his area. And then I have a poll at the end to ask you some questions on if you would be interested in learning more about that. So let's get started. You know, on our panel today, I'm very lucky to have this distinguished group of industry experts. My name is Michelle Marquis. Not that I'm an industry expert, but anyways, I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at Lexicon. We have Brandon Sauls, who is the CEO at IC&D. Jason Sprinkle from Key Data Dashboard, also the CEO. Vanessa Moore, who's Vice President of Revenue Strategy here at Lexicon. Joel Inman, who is the CEO at Lexicon. Kyle Buhner, who is the CEO of Navis. Steve Milo, who is the Chief Executive Officer at VTrips. And last but not least, Jeremy Gall, who is the CEO of Breezeway. So very happy to have these distinguished people with me. So, wow, it's been a week, right? Are we in a free fall? Well, what I would say is, you know, look at your own behavior. Have you changed your behavior for health or financial reasons? You know I have. From conflicting sources, the pandemic will not last as long as the financial impact. So our minds go to how do we increase demand, convert the demand that we have, and make sure our inventory is priced right. Not 9/11, not 2008, not hurricanes, fires, nor floods have prepared us for this. However, there are pieces of data that have people saying, and the data shows it, that we are in a wait and see mentality for summer vacations. So, you know, there's three different things that are really what I call the trifecta of revenue levers, and it is demand, and that demand is online, offline demand, and distribution demand. And then there's conversion, you know, convert more of what you have coming to your website as well as what's happening offline. And then how to convert more with your OTAs. And then there's price. But remember, the right price is not always the lowest price. It might be, but that's not going to increase demand. So you really want to pay attention to this. Now, if demand is up really, really high, then you can have conversion be okay. And you can maybe increase prices because you've got all that demand. But when demand is down, price alone is not gonna help you. So you really need to look at all three of these things, and we're going to be talking about how you not only increase demand, convert what you have, and make sure you're priced to do that. So who are the winners from history? Well, if there are any, if you look at history, the rubber tire market. So this is consistent with everything we're hearing on the news, and that is to not travel where you don't need to be, to stay with family members, to do social distancing. But even as this starts to change, the economy is also going to have people staying closer to home. The other thing is the vacation rental industry, I think, is poised really, really well to capture this this kind of opportunity, I would say, over hotels. And the third thing is the OTAs are the winners from history. We'll talk a little bit about that. So what does the data say about demand? This is where I'm going to turn it over to the demand king, Jason Sprinkle. Jason, what do you got to say?
Hey, good morning, everybody. I appreciate you joining us. First, just real quick on the data itself. We realize that we're the only folks out there with live data, and that's because of our partnerships with most of you guys. And we take that responsibility in a very humble manner, and we're here to help. Our phones are super busy with people wanting to know what's happening in their respective markets, so we're doing our best, and we appreciate your patience with us. But we will give you anything and everything we can to kind of collectively make it through this. If you're looking at data that's a couple of days old, as you know now, you're looking at something that just doesn't apply anymore. Things are changing daily, if not hourly. The president got on the phone yesterday and mentioned the word August, and everybody's summer bookings started to tank. There's been a number of closures today. I just heard Breckenridge closed down. Basically, we're starting to see closures in other markets where they're closing the doors on vacation rentals like they did in Breckenridge. And so, I think it's great to have a plan, but I would stay fluid and watch the data and make sure you're adjusting frequently. So when we look at the data, the first thing we try to look at is not what's happening in every market, because everybody's familiar with that on a day-to-day basis. We're trying to look at what's happening with the coronavirus and really the last 2 weeks. So that's what I'm going to focus on. We're looking at summer and spring break. And then there's 3 KPIs I want to run through with you quickly. One is occupancy, one's booking, and one is cancellation. Those are really 3 that you should be watching. So first, slides on spring break. We were trying to find patterns between how we were looking versus last year, 2 weeks ago in blue, versus how we're looking this Sunday versus last year. And you can see, just skip to the bottom. There's some markets that are going up and some markets that are going down. So no real clear winners in the last 2 weeks or losers in terms of difference over the last 2 weeks for spring break occupancy. If you go to the next slide, Michelle, we can look at summer, and summer's much different. Summer, you'll see a consistent pattern down. It doesn't matter if you were up like Northwest Florida and Hawaiian Islands 2 weeks ago, or Smokies and Outer Banks, or whether you were down like North Georgia mountains. Every market started to lose traction against where they were 2 weeks ago in summer. And there may be a few exceptions out there, but none of the big ones. Everybody's seen summer fall, and that's certainly been the case in the last day or so. Next slide. All right, so some interesting data here. Let me orient you, because the next couple of slides are going to be the same data setup. I'm going to go quick. So yellow or orange is arrivals, and these are bookings. So arrivals coming in the next 30 days, and we're looking at the change versus last year as of the same date. Blue is arrivals due to come in within 30 to 60 days, and gray is all the arrivals on the books. And you can see the slide down. We did okay at the beginning of January, and then this is global, so obviously some changes, and we'll put them on our website, and the difference between international and US. But collectively, you can see that bookings all around were heading downward, 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 and you'll see this in your individual markets as we flip through it. But as soon as we got to last Thursday, we saw an immediate bounce back in that orange line where it jumped up. Bookings started to go up. People started to cancel their trips to anywhere internationally. Disney World, Disneyland closed, cruises shut down, and people started to scramble to look for a place. So most markets who weren't in kind of the roller coaster type of areas like Gatlinburg and Ocean City, and of course Orlando, saw that jump up for bookings coming in the last 30 days. And I'm sure most of your phones are ringing off the hook. Next slide. So look at a couple of markets. This is the Florida Panhandle. You see that immediate spike up from Thursday through Sunday, but then you see the world kind of changed again on Sunday, and we saw even those 0 to 30 days bounce back down. very consistent pattern. If you go to the next slide, this is 30A. We saw even a steeper climb, a little higher end market, a little bit more luxury. Our phones blew up down here, and everybody wanted to refix their travel plans and come to somewhere local. But then things changed on Sunday again, as you see there. Next slide. Same thing with Hawaii. A lot of people were surprised by this data. Bookings started to improve dramatically, and you can see they've been improving a little bit for the short stays. I thought air flights would hold people back, but they haven't. Everybody started to book Hawaii last minute as a whole, and then again, a turn on Sunday. A longer term stay is still headed down. Same thing with Tennessee Smokies on the next slide, but not as pronounced, right? Not quite doing as well as Hawaii, surprising to some, but those of you who know the market may have a better feel for that. And then to go on, Michelle. There you go. So Orlando, about what you'd expect, guys, right? Really consistent downward trend, what we were calling kind of the touchy-feely markets, places where you got to go and the main attractions are closed, whether that be the ski slopes that just closed or the big parks that closed. You're really seeing a consistent drop down. Northwest Colorado, you can see the drop down with the closure of the ski markets there. Next one. And then this is yep.
Can I share something that somebody just sent in?
Yeah.
Outer Banks basically has just closed for reservations. So we should see some big differences going on there.
Yeah, and there's a couple of more markets. I'll let each market announce it that I've heard about in the last 2 or 3 hours. I would expect that you might be moving forward with a great plan right now, and then in the next hour or two, they close all your rentals down. So, pay attention to your cash flow and pay attention to the data, but take it as it comes, obviously. So these flip the switch on what we're looking at here. These are cancellations by day that they're occurring. So each day marks how many cancellations you received that day. You saw them slowing down for the last couple of days. That was really, from Thursday to Sunday through the 14th. I expect when we pull today's and yesterday's late changes since the president was on the phone talking about August, you're going to see that cancellations spike back up for pretty much all the markets. I know our cancellations went through the roof yesterday, really for the first time, but pretty consistent drop down starting on 3/14, and we were seeing a recovery, but certainly going back up. The next slide. And then you see some markets like this where the cancellations have been rising and rising consistently. We didn't see a correction. I will note on 30A, because it's close to my heart down here, where I'm located. It's important not to just look at your cancellations. You got to look at your bookings and your occupancy in relation to that, because at that time on 3/14, which seems like forever ago, even though it was 2 days ago, even though we were seeing a spike in cancellations, our bookings were vastly outweighing our cancellations. So we were having a great 2 weeks. That's in the process of changing last night and today. So you really got to be looking at live data, like I said. And then the last slide, Michelle. So some quick takeaways. One, obviously a very fluid situation, and we'd encourage you, if you're not understanding your data, or if you don't have the data and you just need some help, give us a call. Our people are looking at it hourly, and we're happy to help. Your market's obviously different than every other market, although we are seeing some obvious patterns. 30-day bookings were bouncing back when we saw Disney and cruises in Europe close like you'd expect. And several markets have just started out bad and continued bad, like Orlando. Sunday, we saw a big shift in direction, and I'm pretty sure last night and today we're going to see another pretty big shift in direction. So keep an eye on it. Cancellations, you got to look at both of them. So if you need help, let us know. We are putting all of our data for everybody to see on our main website. So Key Data Dashboard, if you want to see the latest, whether you're a customer or not, and if we can help, give us a call.
Kyle.
Okay, well, thank you. We created these here at Navis a couple of days ago, actually back Friday, which now seems like an eternity. So I won't spend a lot of time on these first couple of slides. We all know that a storm has arrived. Let's go ahead and move to the next one. And the numbers are bad. In fact, even these numbers are just kind of out of date at this point. Go ahead and move to the next. But I did want to share with you at least data we did have through Friday as it relates to call volume. I actually saw call volume a bit of a surprise. It was up nearly 10%. versus March 19, but turns out a great many of those are cancellations. So that wasn't good. The new inbound leads, let's see, new inbound call leads are down 32% compared to the same days in March of last year. Inbound call bookings are down 29% compared to the same days in March last year. I would think it's probably gotten even worse since Friday. And so that's kind of snapshot data. I want to save some time for some of the things we think are really valuable for what you can do. So I'll turn it over.
Thank you. Brandon.
Hey guys, thanks. Here's what we had. We wanted to start off with is to kind of seeing how the coronavirus term is being reflected in the Google search volume and interest, and that way we kind of start gauging what we expect to see within our customer base. So what I did was we tasked our team with looking over in using Google Trends and plugging in the term coronavirus to see what type of interest we have in the past 30 days. So as you see, around February 24th. The interest on the coronavirus term started to kick up. And by March, it started coming up again. You can see that second arrow there. And then by about the 12th, which was the day after the president addressed the nation from the Oval Office concerning the coronavirus, you started really seeing a spike there. So what we're able to do is to kind of take this picture and then kind of cast it into a few other slides and see how it plays back into that. One thing I want to mention, but this is the correct slide, but I want to mention one thing. I hopped over and I looked at in Google Trends, VRBO cancellations, Expedia cancellations, Airbnb cancellations, and the search volume, the interest followed that same line there. Airbnb cancellations was out the roof. About 3/4 of that was Expedia, and about a half of that was VRBO. So anyway, looking over in here using Google Trends, we can see exactly when people are starting to become weary about traveling by looking at vacational related terms. So we're comparing Google Trend data. We're looking at 2019 to 2020. And you see the red line is a 2020 interest or search volume there. And you can see vacations search volume dropped off. That's less interest. This is kind of the top of the funnel people. May not know their destination, but they're researching, not highest converting search. And this seems to relate to the February 24th date noted above. And you can see where that line starts to come apart from the red and the blue there about the middle end of February, and how it just kind of dives on off. And that's what one would expect to see. But looking a little further, we then looked at the term vacation rentals. And notice the second line graph started showing more of a decline about a week later, more around March 1st. These are viewers that have more true intent of vacationing and are further down in the line there. They don't know where they want to go, or they do know where they want to go, and they're searching for specific areas. These held on for a little longer, but started dying later in March, and I feel sure the past couple of days has continued to trend down. Again, this data is from like Friday and over the weekend. So really, this is just kind of a comparison of how the interesting view of how the lookers versus those with true intent, travel intent, is playing out. So one more I want to share with you is the Airbnb term. Notice here that the interest is about the same across the board. We're looking at 2019 to 2020. But the tides have shifted in 2020. Notice that what we've done is we dug into the related queries, and you can see that traffic has a different purpose. In 2019, you had more people looking for Airbnb coupons and Airbnb in Orange Beach and Ocean City, where now, you're seeing on that right-hand side that in 2020, more people are looking for the Airbnb coronavirus, the refunds, cancellation policies, and as you guys all know, you're able to now cancel your stay without incurring any additional fees or anything. So again, just interesting to see how certain terms and parts of the industry are playing out search volume. Okay, Michelle, bounce ahead. So now what we're able to do is take some of that data, overlay it with some of ours, and really come up with some interesting information. So we're seeing more targeted keywords convert rather than top of the funnel keywords like destined vacation rentals, meaning these people are already booking, already had their heart set on a specific condo or complex and location, and already down the booking funnel. So what we did is we look at these numbers are comparing the last 14 days versus the 14 prior to that. So we're just trying to kind of part the middle of the 28 days and look prior back 14 days and then the previous before that over this year. So over the weekend, we saw a more significant drop, but let's talk about some of the numbers. So when we did our analysis here, it was a 15 to 45% drop in organic traffic between those 2 weeks compared to the previous 2 weeks. Since then, we've seen that number bounce as high as 55%. Not in all markets, but that's the extreme is 15 to about 55%. A 16 to 24% drop in bookings, about an 8% average drop in conversion rates, and a 16% average in pay-per-click impression share. So when the pay-per-click campaigns with the same budgets, ads and keywords are seeing a higher impression share, which means that the ads are showing up more often. This is due to a lot of people cutting their pay-per-click budget. So you want to be conscious about that and watch that. And we'll talk about it a little bit later on in some other slides. With less top of the funnel searches going on, this means less and less people are willing to way down to the bottom of the funnel to make these searches. So we anticipate this to kind of continue on for the next little bit, and hopefully this stuff will bottom out and start making a rebound. That's what I have for you from here, Michelle, to later on.
Thank you. Joel Inman.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to make this pretty quick. I only have 2 slides, and thank you all for joining us today. As we look at our cancellation rates at Lexicon, we are representing same-store sales in dollars year on year across Booking.com and Expedia. So this is exactly the channel cancellation rates and the revenue pacing that you've heard about talked about earlier. So what we saw in March, just based on last Friday to Monday, was a huge jump in cancellation rates, as you would expect for the month of March, and pacing for the month of April. May has increased a little bit, and June and July, it still seems like the jury is out. So the data that we're seeing confirms some of the other data that you're seeing here in this webinar from Key Data and others. If you go to the next slide, Michelle. In terms of revenue, so up until the end of February, our trailing 12 months revenue was pacing about 28% year on year. That means that the portfolio for all of our clients was in aggregate up 28%, so they were doing great. And then March hit. The cancellation rate for that same period was about 25%. So when you start to see cancellation rates increase to 33%, 35%, that's what we're seeing right now. And really, we do see sort of a wait and see on the channels, with people kind of waiting to book anything for the summer. And March and April are pretty much a disaster, and it's really hit home here, as well as Vail has closed all of their resorts, not only in Breckenridge, but in Park City, here where we're located, and across the country. So, and we're seeing other kind of ski resorts close down as well. So, the back half of March, really until April 15th, was the remainder of ski season. And obviously, if you had planned a vacation to go skiing, you're no longer doing that. And I'll just kind of make one more note. So in the preparation for this discussion, we were talking a little bit about how companies deal with distress, and in particular, channel management. I had the privilege 4 years ago of being part of LeisureLink. And as many of you know, LeisureLink is a channel manager from the past that went out of business. And when they were in that time of distress, LeisureLink held the commercial contract with the OTAs, so with Expedia. And what that meant was LeisureLink really owned your listings, and they owned the financial path of booking revenue. So Expedia would write one big check, and LeisureLink was responsible for disseminating that money to all of the property management companies with which it worked. As the company sort of went on its path towards bankruptcy, that cash started to slow down. And one of the things, I don't think anybody really knows about this, but LeisureLink actually went to Expedia and said, stop paying us. You have to pay the properties directly. That is an option for anybody who is in a contract, who you have a financial intermediary upstream of you. So if you have those vendors, I would talk to them. And it's also one of the key reasons why when we started Lexicon, we absolutely refuse to get in the path of the money. So anybody who's a client of ours has a relationship with the OTAs directly and will receive the money directly from them. I know that Steve is going to touch on that point as well. So I will let him elaborate in his section.
Thanks. So before Kyle starts and talks about, okay, what to do. So, right now everybody's in triage. So these next, 30 minutes or so together, 30, 40 minutes to go together, we're going to talk about, as travel starts to increase, what should you do? And these are all best practices around those things. And so we obviously know that you're not all gonna tomorrow go, okay, great, I need to, train all my reservation agents on sales tactics. We know that this is going to be something that you'll get ready for and deploy when it's right for your business. So I just wanted to be sensitive to that. So Kyle, voice.
Thank you. Unmuting. Yeah, thanks. I think this is so unlike in so many ways, 9/11 or 2008. But there are some lessons that we've learned through those times that I think are applicable. My advice on this is in terms of what can we do in weathering the storm, I would just, say start with continuing your belief in travel and the amazing value that vacation rentals bring. This storm will undoubtedly pass and demand will return. In the meantime, leveraging your technology and your technology partnerships, what can it do for you that maybe you haven't done before? Is there ways that you can leverage your technology to make you more efficient, or can you enable more of your staff to work from home? Work with your tech provider and see what more you can do with what you've got. And then, just like in 08, I think was really what comes back is converting every ounce of the demand that you do have. When it starts to return, really be sure to treat each and every inbound call or web inquiry as the scarce and highly valuable opportunity that it is. And follow up on these sales opportunities with phone calls and emails, just the way a professional salesperson does in many other industries. Just as a side note, what we're hearing in Res Forces, I'd also recommend being as flexible and generous with your cancellation policies as you possibly can be. It's great messaging for your website and for your reservation salespeople is an important tool for them to help them close a reservation. And then your previous guests and the people who inquired previously but didn't book will be immensely valuable. If you use this data wisely. Thoughtfully communicate to these people in a personalized and segmented way as best you can, and email by voice or by the call center, even following up, and with your digital channels. Remember, these people know you, they likely trust you, and you don't need to pay an OTA to get them. So also the segments that are most likely to book will be your drive-to market, as Michelle was saying. And so put extra focus and care there. Be smart, try and stay away from generic messages, and don't overdo it by sending too many emails just because you need the business, because that's a valuable list. You don't want to burn it up. And this list is, one of your best assets. So you might even experiment with, old school postcards. If they're that valuable, do something maybe the competitors aren't doing, and something that help, produce some demand. Again, not at this moment probably, but, in the future when we're beginning to all climb out. And again, we also recommend working closely with marketing experts, like ICND and other digital marketing agencies, and also just compare notes with, trusted peers in your industry and see what's working for them. So beyond that, just another piece is a time where we can really engage our community, and basically if there are ways that we can be helpful to our communities, do it. People will remember you when the storm has passed and the sun shines again.
Thanks,
and then,
Kyle.
Actually, I think I have one more.
Oh,
you might be tired of hearing from me, but I have
I'm
one
sorry,
more.
you do. Here you go. That's the last slide.
Okay. All right. So once again, I really believe that the scarcest resource in the coming months is likely going to be the paying guest. So do your best to capture information about everyone who expresses interest in staying in one of your properties. For example, we've seen shopping cart abandonment tools being really effective way to pick up a large number of leads, emails, and phone numbers. And with that, you can follow up via email and with phone call. Data that we're seeing over the past 12 months is showing that 32% of these shopping cart abandoned these shopping cart abandonment people can be converted into a reservation and currently are. And there's also a self-service web direct booking. Just the thought that self-service web direct booking is, of course, your most efficient booking, but it's definitely not the most effective. So do what you can to further engage your web visitor, by inviting them into a conversation with one of your reservation salespeople, with the reasoning being that closing rate on a booking engine tends to be around 2%. With a reservation sales agent, it ends up being around 40%. So do whatever you can to try to convert those people off the website and to one of your people, just out of the sheer conversion rate. And then one of the best things about speaking with a prospective guest also personally is you can learn about them, gather important contact information so that you can follow up with them. Again, emails, phone calls, even Facebook. So being able to have that information really is going to be more and more valuable. And then this information you already have and the information you collect is gold, especially during times of diminished demand. So take your data seriously. It's an important company asset, and you should be, and it should be a really important difference maker in the days and months ahead. So I leave you with this. I believe that while most of us are in for a tough period ahead, this will end, and vacation rentals will be the first to bounce back as compared with a lot of other industries, and certainly as compared with hotels.
Thanks, Kyle. Brandon, so what do you suggest people do for, I should not say offline, online?
Yeah. So sticking with Kyle's, weathering the storm and deal here, I want to kind of go through an analogy here real quick, because we've been through hurricanes here on the coast, and other folks have been through fires and other natural disasters. So I know this is certainly a little different, but I kind of want to give you a rundown of what we're thinking here. It's like we're in a Cat 3 or Cat 4 storm, and we're all hunkered down. And normally, within 2 or 3 days, it's all said and done. But here, we're all just trying to figure it out and win for it for quite a time ahead. So the hurricane analogy, while we don't want to compare, the current coronavirus pandemic to a hurricane, there's some lessons that we've learned that allow us to be proactive during this period. Same thing that we're learning from the coronavirus situation here. While certainly not analogous, hurricanes along the East Coast give us an idea of the stages we might see play out with this pandemic. A named storm typically triggers 3 main stages that play out over time. First is a period of uncertainty. While forecasters try to determine the eventual path of the storm and its intensity, that uncertainty leads to suppression of web traffic and bookings, all through this path here that we're on. Bookings will fall off, and right now that's where we believe that we're at. Realization and understanding, once we begin to have a better understanding of the situation for all of our clients, that's when we'll move forward with messaging, forecasting advertising budgets for the months ahead, and planning on capitalizing during the recovery. There's still much uncertainty on how this plays out, like in the drive-in markets. So we're monitoring daily, spotting trends, and we'll, revising advertising efforts over the coming weeks. So, last is the recovery period, marked by capitalizing on any rush of search volume, advertising availability, and focus on turning around occupancy deficits with short lead conversions. So really, what we'll do is, look to see when that search volume returns to these areas, and it's the right search volume that we can put, pay-per-click traffic and budget back in front of it, and try to do it in these, with these campaigns that are quick converters and not, long, drawn out over days to get the browser to convert. Go to the next slide there, Michelle. So yeah, the next slide is talking about some things you can do on your actual website. So controlling your message on your site. One of the things that we're doing now is that we brought forward from like some of the hurricane things that we've done is just having a banner at the top of your website that you can have control of from your control panel, because things are steadily evolving and changing daily. So have that messaging right front and center when someone lands on the site. Coronavirus update. A little blurb to begin, what the situation is, and then follow for more details. That detail page should, that it leads off to, should have all the information there pertinent to the situation within your business and and like your links to your policies, your FAQs, and different updates. You may have those links found throughout your navigation, but it'd be nice to have it all contained in one page that can be accessed, throughout throughout this whole pandemic. First you want to identify, who the users are on your website. You have a couple different ones, individuals that'll be visiting your site. So one of them will be like that branded traffic. That's that person that's actually Googling your company, your company name. They're coming to your website for a reason. They're looking for information to see, what's going on in your area. So you want to cater to that viewer. At the same time, new users will appreciate acknowledgement and actions taken, where you have easily visible when they begin their booking journey. Existing reservations may be seeking information too, but you got to you want to be able to funnel this traffic. So when they come to the site, if they're looking for the coronavirus update, you have that at the front and center. And of course, on down your page above the fold will be where they can start their vacation journey. Although we're in this, this situation, the demand will return, and we want to be, addressing that. Just a few more tips. Oh, sorry, still back there. Just one or two. Like I mentioned, you use site-wide notifications, direct users to relevant areas within your site. Acknowledging the situation on your site means your website is up to date, and you're actively addressing the issue at hand. And I mentioned considering those landing pages specifically geared for the questions around the pandemic. So now you can bounce ahead there, Michelle. So let's talk a little bit about search marketing, search engine marketing with pay-per-click advertising. As interest in vacation rental searches wane in the near term, being nimble and quick to action in your paid advertising campaigns will make a difference. Monitoring and adjusting to the current environment, focusing on what's working and being prepared for this effort you'll need in the future. We have clients calling us daily now that are looking to scale back pay-per-click budgets and just kind of pull back. Let's see how things are going to fare out, and be prepared to re-engage here very shortly. So first of all, we want to do is closely monitor those campaigns. Don't the set it and forget it, which I wouldn't think you necessarily have a set it and forget it mentality, but for sure now, your pay-per-click campaigns that may have been working for you for the last year or 6 months definitely need to be revisited. You may be getting more impression share, but it may not be a good thing. This is due to maybe others pulling out their pay-per-click budgets, and so you may need to tune those campaigns. Assess what's working and check for rises in cost per click and what's actually converting. Play the field you're given. Pay close attention to cost per quick acquisitions to your e-commerce, conversion rate. Be sure you don't overspend. So more importantly than ever, I imagine you probably would, but be sure that your Google AdWords campaign is tied to Google Analytics, so you can really get a comparison and feel what's going on for you there. Focus in, target PPC investments on what's been working in the short term. Campaigns with narrow focus may convert a little better. Hopefully pay-per-click campaigns that are narrowed in and dialed in, so you can monitor and pump the ones that are converting and put the brakes on the ones that aren't so much. Broad idea terms may be driving traffic for coronavirus, but be careful. If you're using like a broad match or phrase match with your pay-per-click campaigns, you may definitely want to consider some negative keywords. Tossing in some of those coronavirus phrases as negative keywords, so you're not paying for people looking for just general information in your area. Terms like Outer Banks rentals or Breckenridge lodging may not be working. Those are too top of the funnel, too high up in the funnel type terms. So you may want to look at researching that and dialing in a little to more like example beach house rentals in Nags Head or Breckenridge ski and ski out rentals. Just deeper in the funnel type terms is what I'm trying to get across there. You may let's see for my forecast. Forecast, you want to begin to think of how you'll use any saved investment for future promotions. You believe that the interest will return. You may start to see less conversions coming in. Meanwhile, your fixed daily budgets will capture more total impression share for these major terms. And it's just because there's less frequency with the total search volume. Measure out your budgets now in this downturn to take advantage of the greener pastures ahead. Focus, like I said, spending on targeted campaigns. So, all this could change weekly and daily, as the nation is addressed on the situation. This is kind of focused on pay-per-click. I want to hit on two more things that we kind of thought about here as I come in on this webinar. Is for the email marketing. Right now we are doing more email educational type marketing campaigns about the coronavirus. Maybe educating or instructing the guests that they can forego in-person check-ins, maybe detailed information about your cleaning regimens, and just letting the vacationer know that you're open for business. And I actually saw one go out here not long ago that's, hey, come work remote with a review. You're talking about, hey, your destination may be coronavirus free in a sense, and these folks that are in some of these metropolitan areas may be able to come out and extend the stay with you while this plays through. And I think lastly is, you may have like an in-stay email that goes out, or a post-departure email that goes out that tries to garner a review or something from that individual. I would really go as far as to put in some phone calls from your front staff, reservation staff, to really try to get a quote unquote kind of testimonial of their stay, including some photos all to post on your social media channels. That way that the folks actually out there, they can see that vacations are still happening in your area, and the folks that are coming there are having a great time. So I know it's going to be a tough one to weather through, and we're here at ICND is willing to help you guys in any way. We're here with you through the end. So thanks you guys for coming in. Back to you, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Okay, we next have Vanessa Moore. Vanessa, what should they do with regards to their OTA listings?
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. So people were scared and demand was down after 9/11. Consumers were over-reliant on these channels, and this is where they really took off. These channels are now a part of life, but I think everyone's asking, are they going to create additional demand? So based on what we've seen in the past, the answer is yes. These OTAs have millions of dollars invested in marketing. They have anywhere from Super Bowl ads, commercials on major networks, and even invest in travel shows on Netflix. So the question then becomes, how does the vacation rental industry benefit? So on hotel styles OTAs, their primary target is hotel guests, and we all know that they're not traveling right now. So it becomes, where are these channels going to put their marketing dollars? Where are they going to focus on capturing the demand? And we really think this is going to be the vacation rental industry. The OTAs will make their presence known during these times, and consumers trust these channels. Thus, you need to be visible. It's really free marketing until you get a booking. So the way that I think about it is shelf space that you need to be on. You can switch to the next one, Michelle. Thank you. So there's going to be some sort of demand in your market, and you need to position yourself to get your fair share and steal from your competition. So the less is better, and you have to remove the barriers. So here I'm going to talk about a few things that are all near and dear to our heart. So the first one is cancellation and deposit policies. So really, uneasy consumers are uneasy with decisions. So you have to really make it easy for your guests to book and cancel. People are going to wait to the last minute. And when we were doing this last week, we saw a window within 14 days. And truthfully, as I've been looking at it by the hour, it's 0 to 3 days, and it's less than that in some markets. So you have to flex your policies to allow people to book with less money down and less money to lose. So just becoming really, as low as you can go. And I know that's hard for the vacation rental industry, but I think we need to talk to our owners as they know what's going on in the world right now. So the next one is length of stay. So people are going to be less likely to travel for long periods during these uncertain times, but they still want to get away. Like, we're approaching spring break right now. So if you're averaging, 3 to 5 nights, but running low occupancy, you should consider dropping down to 2 nights. And there's different things that we can do here. You can layer in, discounts for 5 to 7 nights to entice people to book longer, but your length of stay restrictions should be as low as they can go right now. In regards to arrivals and departures, if you've loosened your length of stay restrictions, odds are that it's opened up opportunities for additional bookings and revenues in your calendar. So this is where you can get really creative. You can offer deals for arrivals on days that you want, like, arrive on Sunday and get 25% off. Something like that really works. The next couple of things here are going to be things that the guests are looking for. So the first one is your quality score, making sure that you have good photos right now, that your listings are built out. Many of us use channel managers, and the APIs don't completely build out, and there's human curation that needs to take place. So make sure that you're looking at your quality scores. One of the most important things right now is branding. Building out your company profiles, making sure that your taglines are compelling and branded so that these people, what we're seeing is that they're going onto the online channels and they're going to you directly. They want to talk to somebody that's at the property, making sure, what's going on, and then booking through you directly. So on these online channels, it's the best thing to make sure that you're branded. The next thing is merchandising. So right now is the time to update your profiles to address the worries of today. And I know this sounds like really hokey, but people are looking at like housekeeping. Are you doing clean linens every day? Maybe getting those big comforters off the bed and just doing sheets that that you're taking away every day. Photos of your housekeeping staff. And it sounds crazy, but it's crazy times right now. And we can always change this later on. After this begins to slow down, we can take those away. But it's really good to get those included on your online profiles. The next thing here is clustering. So clustering, for people that don't know, so individual homes can be listed as an individual home, or if you have like units within a certain building, it's always best to cluster because they outperform 6 to 1. So if you're able, right now there's a lot of time where you're able to cluster, you're gonna rank higher on these channels. So it's the time to do it. Last but not least are reviews. So this is going to be crucial. You have to answer and encourage reviews, and people are going to want to talk to like a live person right now. So make sure that you're going on there, letting them know that everything's clean, there's nothing going on at the property. So just stay on top of your reviews there. So this might be shocking to a lot of you guys, but 70% of all bookings are made through promotions. You have to use promotions right now to discount the rate, and don't just dump the rate. The channels tag promotions with slash throughs and all these bells and whistles, which consumers are trained to look for. So a lot of consumers do not book unless there's a promotion on there because they think that they're getting a deal. So promotions are part of the channel algorithm, which means that if you're running a promotion, you rank higher than your competition. So you have to make sure that you're utilizing this right now. But I did want to make sure that running a promotion doesn't always mean cutting your rate by 50% or more. I think we get scared in the vacation rental industry that, I can't go lower than this. And we're really not saying that, because there's different things that we can do right now. There's added value promotions where you can add a free night, a free upgrade. If you have food and beverage, giving them a free drink upon arrival, or a free activity. And activities can be, just for the families only if they want to go, maybe run a jet ski, do something like that. So this will allow you to have rate integrity with all these added value add promotions. The channels also had special campaigns, which is Expedia members only deals, Booking.com Genius promotions, and becoming a preferred partner. And then lastly, here are the mobile campaigns. So Booking.com says that 26% of bookings are made through mobile. So you have to consider running these. And right now, people may be driving down and see a special promotion. So now's the time to target that market. And I did want to end with this, which is retargeting. So renting your guests is a great first-time investment, but not making them your guests is a mistake. You have to retarget and remarket to your OTA guests with offerings. And this is crazy. A lot of the channels and even my own company may not like me saying this, but it's the right thing to do right now. You pay the commission the first time to acquire the guests, and after they depart, you need to be sending, emails, postcards, really targeting them to come back and be your guest for life.
Thanks, Vanessa. So something that I wanted to just kind of add, and that is that the marketers of the last 10 years have been digital marketers. And I think now is the time to, those people that have their experiences are all digital, really we're going to have to stimulate the market, your market. And, there's ways to do that outside of digital. And with right now, the way things being, I think we're going to have to think outside the box a little bit. And so here's a few different things you can do. Reach out to somebody who's been in marketing for 20 years and ask them how they did this before. You could use trade, which is a great way to extend your marketing budget. And if anybody wants more ideas on that, they can message me directly, because it was the way I extended my marketing budget. And especially for those drive markets, because you can reach deep into, a market that is a small, like I'll use Oregon. They have a Lake Oswego newspaper. Perfect place for me to do marketing for a drive market, and it's not very expensive, and they'll do trade. So I just want to kind of talk about that. I want to let everybody know that we know that we're at an hour and we're running late. There's still 280 people on, over 280 people on. So I'm going to assume you still want to hear more and keep going. And I now have Steve Milo, who has a whole bunch of great meaty information to do. So Steve, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Let's skip through these slides. We're in resort areas, not urban. So let's talk about cancellation fees. I would encourage everyone to look at their cancellation fees and increase them, not decrease, but increase. I'm going to be talking counter to what you're hearing from other analysts. Now is the time to increase your cancellation rates because every time you make a booking, there's a chance that booking may kick out. We increased our cancellation fees back during the last recession from $100 to $300. And when we do let people out, we keep the $300, and that creates a substantial profit fee flow. Also, the fees that come to you, booking fees, reservation fees, damage waiver fees, you're probably going to end up reducing rent, which is going to affect your gross commission. Now's the time to take a look at some of your other fees to counter the effect of reduced commission. Next slide. All right, so chargeback, you know, it's time, if you haven't taken this seriously, it's time to get serious about it. We are fighting every single one of these chargebacks. The way we do it is we always get a guest to sign a rental agreement, even from an OTA, they have to sign a guest agreement. We document in notes every phone call, every email, and we create a paper trail. We get the guest to initial or sign next to the cancellation policy, and we offer trip insurance to every single guest. We bonus our agents at a certain commission amount for upselling trip insurance. We document and confirm in writing that work has been completed for repairs. And then for last minute reservations, we request a photo of the guest, not just an ID. So we take a picture of the guest with an ID in their hand. And we are fighting these chargebacks. There are significant deadlines. You must be on top of the deadlines. People are trying to charge back, and you have to be aggressive at fighting these. Next slide. You know, I've been talking.
Steve, you just cut out.
5 years about OTAs. Can you hear me now, Michelle?
I can now, yes.
Okay, let's talk about OTAs. OTAs are not your friends. I have said over and over again, do not listen to what they say, watch what they do. And with Airbnb, I've talked explicitly about their extenuating circumstance clause, and they are using that against people right now. And this should be a lesson about being dependent on Airbnb. And I've talked about ways to get around that dependency, but it's a bad time if you are dependent on Airbnb because they are using that extenuating circumstance, which means they can refund guests up to 1 day before they arrive, and you're left with nothing. I don't know how you satisfy your homeowners at this point, but all you can do is try to mitigate the damage moving forward. Next slide. So with Airbnb, we're marking Airbnb up 22%. We're self-insuring Airbnb. I know people thought it was extreme. I know Airbnb employees think it's extreme. Today, in today's world, I don't think it's extreme that we've self-insured against Airbnb. The upside of this is because we mark up their channel so high, we don't have as much bookings from Airbnb. We get them from other OTAs that have better, more property manager friendly policies. I would advise everyone on this call, this is a wake up about Airbnb, okay? Anyone who's still using them and thinks they're your friend, you are not living in reality. Next slide. Airbnb, very guest-centric. Guest-centric is not what you want right now. You need companies that are supplier-centric. So with VRBO, we're merchant of record. With Booking.com, we're merchant of record. I would make sure that you really take a look at what you're doing and how you're doing it. Next slide. Deal with channel managers with your eyes wide open. Make sure You are the merchant of record, something Joel just said. We are definitely having payment issues with Vacay Connect, who is our channel manager for Expedia. This is an accounts receivable issue. I would caution everybody to look at their accounts receivable carefully, and you may have to sever ties with the channel manager if they're behind, because I don't see them getting caught up. So I would look at this very carefully. Next slide. Again, we use different pricing plans for OTAs. Some OTAs we charge more, some OTAs we charge less. You should not have a uniform pricing for OTAs. You should charge the OTAs with more guest-centric policies, more supplier-friendly, less. Your website should always have the lowest price. I mean, this is just on and on. I've said this over and over again. Next slide. Always communicate to guests at the lowest prices booking directly through you, and make sure your sales agents are communicating that the lowest price is always on your website. Next slide.
That's it.
Okay.
And Steve had so much to go through. Steve, thank you so much for keeping it under 10. That lots and lots of information. So Jeremy is going to talk a little bit about messaging and what you can do through messaging as far as making people feel comfortable. Jeremy, take it away.
Thanks so much, Michelle. As Michelle said at the start here, so much has changed since we planned this a week ago. This is sales and marketing focused. This is not operationally focused. So we're going to talk about messaging and instilling confidence and how you, in a skittish market, help build confidence and market that back to your audience. One word quickly, it's the safety and health of your team is paramount. Ensure that you're taking the right precautions and you have everything in place to keep your team safe, and the right materials and procedures. And I just wanted to add that in. We're not going to cover any of that now. So on to the next slide. So much work goes into these properties. I think this is an opportunity for managers. Vanessa talked about it, right? Like actually marketing your housekeeping in your OTA listings. We've never heard such a thing before. And I think that underscores the importance of what's going on and the levels that we need to take as an industry to be prepared when that recovery from the storm comes and people are engaging again. They are going to want to travel. We're going to talk about in a second how I think vacation rentals are well positioned as one of the first segments as the market comes roaring back, which it will, and the sun will shine. But this is about how you communicate the full level of your professional care and what's going on, and really take this moment to make sure that you are doing everything you can. Focus on what you can control and the message that you can control, which is how you position the professional work you do versus other accommodations. Not only other accommodation types, but other types of providers. Think about the difference between being a professional manager, the work that you do, versus an individual owner who's flying really blind with boots on the ground as to what's actually happening at their property. And you leverage that through how you're messaging and documenting the work that gets done. I think this can be used very much to help instill confidence in the market. Share these messages publicly with every cohort of your guest and your audience. This is an important piece of differentiation. You need to take this as an opportunity on the marketing side to, as you rebuild that messaging with your audience, to take control and take advantage of the work that you do. And lastly, it's reassuring owners by sharing reports of the property care that you're doing. That's part of marketing the service that you provide and what you can do special to help alleviate their concerns as well. On the next slide. This is about as folks return to the travel market. I think that's fair to say. We see what's happening. We talked about it with the closures that are happening. We're going to see a period where there is, a lot of slower travel and folks are being forced to stay at home. They will come back though, and I think this is an opportunity for vacation rentals to really position as not the alternative accommodation, but the accommodation of choice. And there's a couple of points that I want to bring up here that I think should be built into everyone's program, which are, these destinations are available with outdoor space to be enjoyed. There's less utilization than a typical hotel room. There aren't public spaces to navigate, such as lobbies and other features and amenities. And there's smart locks for keyless entry, so that you can actually, this is kind of a hidden benefit to self check-in. This positions vacation rentals, when we are ready to travel, as the optimum choice for the market. So take advantage of that and be prepared now to understand how you can instill confidence in folks and bring them back. And on the next slide, we have a couple of examples. These are examples from our customers and how they're thinking about different cohorts of their audience, whether it's prospective guests, incoming guests, or owners, to message to them either through text, email, or other tools, exactly what they're doing and the work that they're putting in to make sure that their properties are safe and cleanliness is upheld, and that they're putting the product forward that they really want folks to have. We're not going to read through these, but we'll be launching later this week a full resource set on Breezeway, and we're happy to help coach people through and share what people are doing, both for how they message this now, what they're doing to change their cleaning protocols, and then how they're pushing that forward and taking advantage of that to spread the news in the market about what exactly they're